Hong Kong, 1964. The rain had stopped only minutes earlier, but the air inside the rooftop arena still felt heavy enough to drown in. Cigarette smoke drifted beneath hanging industrial lights. Sweat darkened the wooden floorboards. Somewhere in the back, glass bottles clinked together while gamblers shouted odds in Cantonese over the sound of distant traffic below the building. More than 400 people had crammed themselves into that illegal rooftop fighting circle. Dock workers, street enforcers, triad associates, young martial artists desperate to witness violence, old masters pretending they had come only to observe technique. Nobody came for peace. They came to watch a man destroy another human being. And at the center of it all stood Wong Jack Man, tall, broad-shouldered, calm in the way dangerous men often are. By then, his reputation had already spread across Hong Kong and San Francisco like wildfire. Some called him the Northern Cyclone. Others claimed he had once knocked a challenger unconscious so quickly the audience thought the fight had not started yet. What people agreed on was worse. He never looked tired, not once. Men who trained beside him said his conditioning bordered on insanity. Hundreds of kicks before sunrise. Endless horse stances until his legs shook uncontrollably. Iron palm drills that left splinters buried in his skin. They said he practiced until his hands bled through wrapped cloth, and still kept going. The previous month alone, he had fought 6 challengers. 3 left unable to stand. 1 needed stitches above both eyes. Another reportedly retired from competition entirely after suffering cracked ribs during a private sparring session. The stories grew larger every week. Some were probably exaggerated. Most weren't. That night, the crowd believed they were about to witness another public execution disguised as martial arts. The betting tables reflected it. 20-to-1 odds against whoever volunteered to face him. Nobody wanted that humiliation. Nobody wanted that pain. Then something strange happened. Wong looked toward the edge of the crowd and pointed directly at a thin young man leaning casually against a support beam near the staircase. The audience turned together. At first, people laughed, because the man barely looked like a fighter. He wore simple dark trousers and a loose shirt with sleeves rolled halfway up his forearms. No dramatic stance, no entourage, no visible intimidation. His frame looked almost too lean beneath the dim lighting. Young, relaxed, ordinary. He didn't even seem interested in the arena. For a moment, several people thought Wong was joking, but Wong kept pointing. "You," he said. The rooftop grew quieter. The young man slowly looked around, almost confused the challenge was directed at him. Then he smiled politely, not arrogantly, not nervously, just politely. A few men near the betting table burst into laughter. "That kid? He'll die. Look at his arms." Someone else shouted that Wong wanted entertainment before the real fight. The rooftop erupted again, but Wong didn't laugh. That was the first detail witnesses would later remember. He stared at the young stranger with an intensity that didn't match the mood of the crowd, as if something about him felt wrong or unfamiliar. The young man stepped away from the beam and moved toward the center of the rooftop. Still calm, still expressionless. And the closer he came, the stranger the atmosphere became, because he walked differently. Not tense like fighters usually did before confrontation, not puffed up with fake confidence. Loose, balanced, like water rolling downhill. One old Wing Chun instructor near the back reportedly stopped speaking mid-sentence the moment he saw the young man's footwork. He narrowed his eyes immediately, because hidden beneath that relaxed posture was precision. Every step landed softly, every movement economical, nothing wasted. That old instructor would later say something chilling to a journalist years afterward. He moved like someone who already knew the ending. But nobody else understood yet. The gamblers kept laughing. The promoters kept smiling. The audience kept expecting humiliation. And the young stranger simply climbed through the ropes. Wong finally spoke. "What style do you practice?" The young man looked at him quietly for a moment, then answered softly, "Human." More laughter exploded across the rooftop. Even Wong smiled slightly at that answer. But not fully, not comfortably, because something about the stranger's eyes didn't match his appearance. There was no fear in them. None. Not even hidden fear. And fighters recognized that immediately, especially experienced ones. A man pretending confidence breathes differently. His shoulders tighten, his jaw shifts, his blinking changes. This man had none of it. His breathing remained slow, his pulse almost invisible at the neck, his posture relaxed enough to look disrespectful. That's when Wong finally asked the question. "What's your name?" The young man wiped rainwater from one sleeve, then answered, "Bruce Lee." The reaction was immediate. Confusion first, then whispers. Then silence, spreading slowly through the crowd like a crack traveling across ice. Because some people had heard that name before. Very few had actually seen him fight. At the time, Bruce Lee was still more rumor than legend. Whispers from private schools, stories from closed-door demonstrations, claims that sounded too ridiculous to believe. People said he could strike before opponents reacted, that he trained faster than anyone they had ever seen, that traditional masters disliked him because he broke too many rules. Others dismissed those stories completely. Too small, too flashy, too young, but now he stood directly across from Wong Jack Man beneath the hanging lights of that rooftop arena. And for the first time that night, the crowd stopped laughing quite so loudly. Still, nobody truly believed Wong could lose. How could they? Wong outweighed him, outreached him, had the stronger reputation, the proven victories, the fear factor. Bruce looked almost fragile by comparison. That illusion would not survive much longer. A promoter stepped between them and explained the rules quickly. Though everyone knew rules rarely mattered in rooftop fights. No eye gouging, no biting. Victory by submission, knockout, or inability to continue. Bruce listened quietly, then asked one question. Are we fighting to learn or fighting to impress people? The promoter frowned in confusion. Wong answered first. Winning is enough. Bruce nodded once. Usually for the loser. Several people near the front exchanged glances. That sentence landed differently. Not loud, not dramatic, certain. And suddenly the rooftop atmosphere shifted again. Something invisible had entered the arena. Not fear, not yet, but uncertainty. The fighters bowed lightly. Rainwater dripped from rusted pipes overhead. Someone dropped a glass bottle in the back. The city hummed below them. Then the fight began. Wong attacked first, fast. Far faster than most people expected for a man his size. A powerful forward burst with enough force to drive Bruce backward immediately. His lead hand snapped toward Bruce's face while his rear leg swept low toward the knee. The crowd roared. But Bruce moved, not backward, not sideways. Around, it happened so smoothly many people missed it entirely. 1 second Wong was charging directly into him. The next, Bruce was standing at an angle no one expected, calm as ever, while Wong's strike cut through empty air. No dramatic dodge, no acrobatics, just absence. The audience blinked in confusion. Wong turned instantly and attacked again, harder this time. Punch, elbow, low kick. Bruce slipped everything, barely. His movements were microscopic, economical, terrifyingly efficient. An inch here, a shoulder turn there, a slight shift of weight, nothing wasted. And that's when the rooftop started growing quiet, because experienced fighters in the crowd began noticing something horrifying. Bruce wasn't reacting late. He was moving before the attacks fully formed, as if he could see intention itself. Wong increased pressure immediately. Another barrage exploded forward. This time Bruce countered. A single hand shot outward. Pop! The sound cracked through the rooftop like wood splitting. Wong staggered backward unexpectedly. The crowd froze. Not because the strike looked devastating, because it looked effortless. Bruce hadn't even planted his feet fully. And yet Wong's expression changed for the first time all night. Confusion. Real confusion. The kind fighters experience only when reality suddenly stops matching expectation. Then something changed completely. Bruce smiled. Not cruelly, not mockingly, almost sadly. And he lowered his hands. The rooftop fell dead silent. For several long seconds, nobody on that rooftop understood what they were actually watching. Bruce Lee stood directly in front of one of the most feared fighters in Hong Kong, with his hands lowered, not completely dropped, not careless, but relaxed in a way that felt almost insulting. Rainwater tapped softly against the metal roof pipes above them. Somewhere below the building, a car horn echoed through the night streets. Yet inside the arena, nobody moved, because Wong Jack Man suddenly looked uncertain. It was subtle. Most ordinary spectators missed it. But the martial artists in the crowd saw it immediately. His shoulders had tightened, just slightly. His breathing had changed too. That tiny shift terrified them more than any punch. A fighter like Wong did not hesitate. Not ever. Bruce tilted his head a little, studying him calmly. "You're too tense," he said softly. A few people laughed nervously. But the sound died almost immediately, because Bruce's voice contained no mockery, only observation, like a teacher correcting posture. Wong stepped forward again, more cautiously this time. His eyes narrowed, scanning Bruce's centerline for openings. He circled left once, then right, searching for patterns. He found none. That was the problem. Traditional fighters recognized rhythm, timing, weight transfer, defensive habits. Every martial artist revealed themselves eventually through repetition. Bruce revealed nothing. No rigid stance, no commitment, no readable structure. He flowed constantly between positions like his body, had abandoned style entirely. That unsettled Wong more with every passing second. The rooftop audience could feel it too now. The confidence from earlier had begun dissolving. Gamblers who had laughed minutes ago were suddenly silent over their betting slips. Cigarettes burned untouched between fingers. Even the promoters stopped shouting. Because the strange skinny young man in plain clothes no longer looked ordinary. He looked dangerous. And nobody understood why. Then Wong exploded forward again, this time with real aggression. His right hand shot toward Bruce's throat, while his left arm swept downward in a trapping motion designed to crush balance instantly. It was fast enough that several audience members gasped before Bruce even moved. But Bruce's body responded almost casually. His torso rotated. His lead foot slid. His forearm redirected Wong's strike by inches. Then came the counter, 3 punches, too fast to follow clearly. Pop, pop, pop. The sounds echoed across the rooftop like firecrackers. Wong stumbled backward, hard enough to nearly lose balance. The audience erupted in shocked shouting. "What was that? Did he hit him? How many strikes was that?" One elderly observer near the back leaned forward with wide eyes, because he had seen something almost nobody else caught. Bruce had not punched with force. He had punched with timing. Every strike landed during movement. Every angle disrupted balance. Every impact interrupted Wong's structure before power could develop. It wasn't brute violence. It was control. Pure control. And Wong finally understood he was not fighting a normal opponent. You could see it in his face now. The confidence remained, but certainty had disappeared. Bruce slowly exhaled. "You're trying too hard." That sentence hit Wong harder than the punches. The champion's jaw tightened visibly. Years later, several witnesses would say that was the exact moment the emotional momentum changed. Not physically, psychologically. Because Wong was beginning to realize something humiliating. Bruce Lee wasn't surviving. He was studying him. The rooftop suddenly felt smaller, hotter. The crowd pressed inward unconsciously as tension climbed higher with every second. A journalist standing near the staircase later described the atmosphere perfectly. It felt like everyone was waiting for reality to break. Wong attacked again. But now there was frustration behind it. His combinations became heavier, wider, more violent. And Bruce became even calmer. He slipped punches by fractions of inches, redirected kicks with tiny movements, intercepted strikes before they fully extended. At one point, Wong launched a brutal spinning back kick aimed directly at Bruce's ribs. Bruce stepped inside it effortlessly. Inside. The audience gasped collectively. Any mistake there could have shattered ribs instantly. But Bruce moved without panic, placing himself so close the kick lost all power before impact. Then he whispered something only the nearest spectators heard. "Too much motion." And suddenly Wong looked angry. Really angry. Not performative anger. Not competitive intensity. Personal anger. Because Bruce wasn't humiliating him through dominance. He was exposing him. Every exchange revealed inefficiency. Every movement highlighted wasted effort. Every failed strike stripped away the mythology surrounding Wong's invincibility. That hurt more than pain. The crowd sensed it too. Whispers spread rapidly now. "Who is this guy? Where did he train? He's playing with him." No one could play with Wong. But Bruce was. Not cruelly. Almost clinically. Like a scientist demonstrating principles. Then came the moment people would talk about for decades. Wong charged forward with everything he had. A full commitment attack. Fast, explosive, violent. His right fist cut toward Bruce's jaw with terrifying force while his left hand reached to trap the shoulder simultaneously. For the first time all night, it looked unavoidable. Several audience members actually shouted warnings. Then Bruce disappeared, not literally, but fast enough that memory struggled to process it. One instant he stood directly in front of Wong. The next, he had shifted completely off-center while delivering a short intercepting strike straight into Wong's chest. The sound wasn't loud. That was the frightening part. It sounded small, compact, precise. Yet Wong froze instantly, his entire body locked for half a second before stumbling backward violently into the ropes. The rooftop fell silent, dead silent. Nobody cheered, nobody moved, because Wong Jack Man looked shocked, actually shocked. His breathing had become uneven now. His eyes widened slightly as he stared at Bruce with something the crowd had never seen before. Doubt. Bruce remained motionless, composed, breathing slowly through his nose, almost peaceful. Then he spoke quietly enough that people leaned forward to hear. "You're fighting me." A pause. "But I'm not fighting you." Nobody understood the sentence immediately. Not fully, but they felt it. The difference between violence and mastery. Wong wiped sweat from his face aggressively and reset his stance again. Pride alone kept him standing there now. The crowd could sense that too. A lesser fighter might already have quit. But champions are dangerous, precisely because humiliation enrages them, and Wong was furious. The next exchange became brutal. He surged forward with relentless pressure, abandoning caution entirely. Punches hammered toward Bruce's face and ribs in rapid succession. Elbows cut through the humid air. Kicks slammed against the wooden floor hard enough to shake dust loose from overhead beams. Bruce moved through all of it like flowing water, not retreating, not resisting, adapting. Every time Wong attacked one target, Bruce appeared somewhere else before impact arrived. A shoulder turn, a pivot, a glide, minimal movement, maximum effect. And slowly, horrifyingly, Wong began tiring. The audience noticed before he did. His attacks carried more effort now. His recovery slowed by fractions. His breathing deepened. Bruce, meanwhile, looked untouched, almost fresh. That realization spread through the rooftop like cold poison, because people finally understood what made Bruce Lee terrifying. It wasn't aggression. It wasn't strength. It wasn't even speed alone. It was efficiency, so advanced it looked supernatural. Nothing unnecessary, nothing emotional, nothing wasted. A gambler near the front muttered something under his breath that several witnesses later repeated. "He fights like he already knows." And maybe that was the best description anyone could give. Bruce never looked surprised. Not once. As Wong launched another desperate combination, Bruce suddenly intercepted him with a rapid chain of strikes that snapped through the air so quickly. Many spectators heard the impacts before understanding what happened. Pop, 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 pop. Wong staggered backward again. A cut had opened near his cheekbone now, tiny, but visible. The crowd erupted into chaos, shouting, arguments, disbelief. Some accused Bruce of cheating. Others screamed that Wong was exhausted. Several older martial artists simply stared in stunned silence, because deep down, they knew. They were witnessing a completely different philosophy of combat. Bruce was dismantling not just a fighter, but an entire way of thinking. Then something happened nobody expected. Bruce stopped advancing, completely. Wong stood breathing heavily across from him, chest rising and falling hard beneath the rooftop lights. Bruce looked at him calmly for several seconds, then bowed his head slightly. "You're skilled," he said. The rooftop froze again. Nobody expected respect after domination. But Bruce continued softly, "You're just trapped." Wong frowned. "Trapped by what?" Bruce's answer would later become legendary among the few who heard it clearly, by trying to become what others already are. Silence. Even the city noise below seemed distant now. Bruce slowly raised one hand. Not threateningly, demonstrating. A style should never imprison a human being. The older martial artists watching suddenly looked deeply uncomfortable, because Bruce wasn't merely fighting anymore. He was challenging centuries of tradition, and somehow, winning while doing it. The rooftop no longer sounded like a fight arena. It sounded like a church, silent, heavy, almost sacred, Even the gamblers had stopped speaking. Money no longer mattered. Nobody cared about odds anymore. Because every person standing beneath those dim industrial lights understood they were watching something far bigger than victory or defeat. They were watching certainty collapse in real time. Wong Jack Man wiped blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at Bruce Lee with exhausted disbelief. Sweat rolled down his temples. His chest rose sharply beneath the humid night air. Across from him, Bruce still looked calm. Not untouched physically, untouched emotionally. That difference haunted the crowd more than the strikes themselves. Because Wong looked like a man surviving a storm. Bruce looked like the storm had never reached him. And then, for the first time all night, Bruce stepped forward aggressively. The energy changed instantly. Every spectator felt it. Until now, he had mostly reacted, redirected, controlled distance. But this was different. Now he advanced. Not recklessly, not angrily. Inevitably, like a tide finally coming in. Wong planted his feet hard and launched another attack the moment Bruce entered range. A sharp right hand burst toward Bruce's jaw, followed immediately by a crushing body strike meant to stop momentum cold. Bruce slipped both, effortlessly. Then came the counter. Fast. Too fast. Witnesses would argue about the sequence for years afterward because almost nobody processed it correctly in real time. Bruce's lead hand snapped outward first, intercepting Wong's vision for a fraction of a second. At nearly the same instant, his body rotated with terrifying efficiency and delivered a short vertical punch directly through Wong's centerline. Not wild, not theatrical. Precise. The impact folded Wong backward instantly. Air exploded from his lungs. The rooftop gasped collectively. Before Wong could fully recover balance, Bruce moved again. A low kick disrupted the leg. A trapping hand controlled the shoulder. Another strike stopped inches from Wong's face. Stopped. That mattered. Bruce could have landed it. Everyone there knew it. Instead, his fist hovered motionless in front of Wong's nose while the champion stood frozen beneath the lights, breathing hard, unable to continue. The silence afterward felt endless. No cheers, no celebration, only shock, because Bruce Lee had just dismantled one of the most feared fighters in Hong Kong. Without hatred, without struggle, without losing emotional control for even a second, Wong slowly lowered his hands. And in that moment, every person watching understood the fight was over. Not officially, spiritually. Bruce stepped back immediately and relaxed his stance again, as though nothing extraordinary had happened. That somehow made the entire thing feel even more unreal. A promoter finally climbed into the arena cautiously, glancing between both men with visible confusion. He looked almost afraid to speak, but Wong raised a hand first. "No," he said quietly. The rooftop leaned closer. Wong swallowed once before continuing. "I understand." Those three words spread across the arena like electricity. Because champions almost never admit defeat openly, especially men built on reputation. Yet Wong's expression had changed completely now. The anger was gone, so was the pride. What remained looked closer to realization. Bruce bowed respectfully. Not performative respect. Real respect. And Wong returned it. For several seconds, neither man moved. Then Bruce spoke softly enough that many people missed it. A fight should reveal truth. Wong looked at him carefully. "And what truth is that?" Bruce smiled faintly. "That power without understanding is temporary." Nobody wrote those words down that night. There were no cameras recording the rooftop, no microphones, no official documentation. That's why the story became something stranger over the years. A legend carried by witnesses. Some swore Bruce moved faster than humanly possible. Others insisted Wong had never truly been beaten before that night. A few claimed the entire atmosphere of the rooftop changed the moment Bruce entered the ring. And strangely, every version agreed on one thing. The emotional impact mattered more than the fight itself. Because the people who watched it left differently than they arrived. Young martial artists began questioning rigid traditions they once followed blindly. Fighters started discussing adaptability instead of memorized patterns. Even older masters who disliked Bruce privately admitted they had never seen movement like that before. Not because it was flashy, because it was free. That became Bruce Lee's real weapon: freedom. Freedom from ego. Freedom from fear. freedom from style itself. Years later, one journalist tracked down a former gambler who had witnessed the rooftop fight as a teenager. The man reportedly sat quietly for a long time before saying something unforgettable. "I thought strength meant domination," he said. But Bruce made the strongest man there look trapped. That was the psychological shock nobody forgot. Wong fought to win. Bruce fought to understand. And somehow that understanding made him untouchable. As the crowd slowly began leaving the rooftop that night, people kept turning around to look at Bruce Lee one last time. Some with admiration, some with confusion, some almost afraid. Because moments like that force human beings to confront uncomfortable truths. Sometimes greatness does not announce itself loudly. Sometimes it stands quietly in the corner wearing plain clothes while the entire room laughs. Until suddenly, nobody is laughing anymore. Bruce remained near the ropes for a while after most spectators disappeared down the staircase. Rain started falling lightly again beyond the rooftop edge, blurring the neon lights of Hong Kong beneath the dark sky. Wong approached him one final time. "You could have hurt me badly," he admitted. Bruce shook his head. "If I need to hurt someone to prove myself," he said quietly, "then I've already lost." Wong studied him carefully after that, not as an opponent, as something rarer, a man completely without insecurity. That realization stayed with many witnesses for the rest of their lives, because most fighters carried hidden fear beneath aggression, fear of weakness, fear of humiliation, fear of losing identity. Bruce seemed free from all of it, which made him terrifying in a way physical strength alone never could. The rain grew heavier. Somewhere below, the city continued moving as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Cars rolled through wet streets. Restaurants closed their doors. Strangers hurried home beneath umbrellas. But on that rooftop, a myth had quietly been born. Not the myth of an unbeatable fighter. Something more powerful. The myth of a man operating on an entirely different level of understanding. And long after the bruises healed, long after the arena disappeared, long after witnesses grew old, people still remembered the same image. A champion choosing a skinny young man from the crowd, thinking he had found an easy victim, only to realize far too late he had stepped in front of Bruce Lee.